Nigeria calls for United Nations reform, warns of global bodies' declining influence.
We work through multilateral platforms within the rule of law to build the consensus and support that makes this immensely difficult and dangerous task that much easier.
President Tinubu receives Ogoni consultation report, paving way for oil exploration.
Let us together seize this moment, turning pain into purpose, conflict into cooperation.
Federal government reveals 2025 independence theme. All hands must be on deck for a greater nation.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on harnessing maritime potentials.
Well, Juma, it's a wet morning, and we are discussing maritime. You can see the coincidence.
Connection, yes.
All right. Nigeria's maritime sector, the blue economy, is one of our biggest untapped resources with over 853 kilometers of coastline. The potential is massive.
Massive, and it goes beyond ships and ports. We're talking about transportation, fisheries, tourism, renewable energy, even maritime education, and of course, creation of jobs.
You're right, Jumai. The gains could be huge. More jobs, stronger trade, food security, and a sustainable environment.
But the challenges are real, from weak infrastructure to overfishing, insecurity, and not enough investment in that sector.
Absolutely. Government says it is fixing that, modernizing ports, training new professionals, and encouraging private investment.
And if that's done right, the blue economy can lift livelihoods and boost national growth.
Well, that's our focus for today on Good Morning Nigeria, how to unlock the promise of the blue economy. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I am Juma Yusuf. The newspaper review is next with Chukudi Okolu-Gbaja. But first, the morning highlights with Mina Daniels. Mina, good morning.
Good morning. It's here, Jumai and Demola. It's been such a rainy day. Welcome to the news segment. President Bola Tinubu has delivered a strongly worded reform policy proposal to the United Nations, warning that the global body must restructure or face irrelevance as world events increasingly bypass its influence. In his address to the UN General Assembly's 80th session, President Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, warned that the UN's credibility is being undermined by the gulf between its words and its deeds, while positioning Nigeria's economic transformation as a model for developing nations.
Nigeria must have a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. This should take place. This should take place as part of a wider process of institutional reform. 2, we need urgent action to promote sovereign debt relief and access to trade and financing. 3, countries that host minerals must benefit from those minerals. And 4th, the digital divide must close. As our friend the Secretary General has said, AI must stand for Africa included.
With full acknowledgement of the commitment of the Tinubu's administration towards addressing their challenges in the last 2 years, leaders in Ogoni land have unanimously expressed readiness to support resumption of oil exploration in their land. This is part of the recommendations in the report on Ogoni consultations presented by the Dialogue Committee to President Bola Tinubu at the State House.
We have shown the entire nation what disciplined dialogue can achieve. So the dialogue committee, your work now becomes the blueprint for the implementation. Let us together seize this moment, turning pain into purpose, conflict into cooperation, and transform the wealth beneath Ogoni soil into a blessing for the people and for Nigeria.
And President Bola Tinubu has continued to prevail on captains of industry in a bid to support his administration's drive in sustaining the downward trend in the prices of commodities, especially food items. The president this Wednesday received the chairman of BUA Group, Alhaji Abdul Samad Rabiu, in the state, with discussion centered on food prices. In an interview with our State House correspondent after their meeting behind closed doors, Alhaji Rabiu commended the president for various reforms leading to stability in the economy, including the duty waiver on some food items and the harmonization of foreign exchange, amongst others. He encourages Nigerians to continue to support the administration in order to sustain the positive improvement in prices of commodities.
I expect that the rate should come down to maybe 1,300 to 1,400 naira before the end of the year. Really, for all of this, we must give full credit to His Excellency and the government. You know, there are bold reforms and decisive policies creating the foundation for a stronger economy, a more stable currency, and a better future for businesses and Nigerians alike.
The federal government has officially unveiled the theme for the 2025 Independence Anniversary. Nigeria at 65, all hands on deck for a greater nation. According to a statement by Director of Information and Public Relations at the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the theme emphasizes the need for unity, collaboration, and patriotism among the public sector, private sector, civil society, and citizens to build a nation characterized by sustainable peace, prosperity, and progress. The statement highlights that since independence on October 1st, 1960, Nigeria has navigated challenges and achieved notable advancements in various economic sectors. It calls for collective efforts to consolidate these gains and strive for loftier objectives, aiming to forge a powerful nation for all citizens. To actualize a renewed hope agenda, government activities and programs are expected to align with the official theme as part of activities marking the 65th Independence Anniversary. The following events will take place: Jumat prayer, Friday, September 26, 1 p.m. Interdenominational Church Service, Sunday, September 28, 10 a.m. World Press Conference, Monday, September 29, 10 a.m. The Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, has released a preliminary report on the August 26, 2025 train derailment of the Abuja-Kaduna rail line. According to the investigation of the NSIB, the incident was attributed to inadequate maintenance, lack of accessible spare parts, and malfunctioning equipment, including CCTV cameras. Going forward, the Director General of the NSIB, Captain Alex Bade Jr., in a statement says the Bureau has made recommendations as follows: providing refresher training for Nigerian Railway Corporation personnel to ensure they are up to date with safety procedures, replacing damaged sleepers to guarantee track stability, installing original equipment manufacturer OEM standard point switches along the route, and restoring defective equipment such as communication devices and CCTV cameras. The derailment occurred at 11:09 near Asham Station, resulting in 21 injuries but no fatalities. A final report will be released in due course, providing further insights into the incident and measures to enhance rail safety in Nigeria. And that's the news. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Jummai and Ademola after the break.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than destination.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry life. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle. Nivea Black and White Deodorant, now with 72-hour protection. But what does that mean? 3 cities in 3 days and no fear of sweat and odor. 120 dances with skin as smooth as the moves. Sweat, stain and odor protection. Nivea Black and White Deodorant. Skin is for embracing life. Nivea is for skin.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Nigeria at 65, a continental giant takes another step forward, navigating the contradiction fueled by a colorful and resourcefully diverse populace, yet questions linger on the destination of state, propelled by the vagaries of nationhood. What is your contribution to this journey? Join the NTA and an eclectic mix of everything Nigerian, from the academic deans to the street kings, who will lend their voices on the platform that has always been a part of the journey. The NTA on October 1st, 2025.
You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, and let's see what's making the rounds on the front pages of the newspapers this morning. It's time for newspaper review.
To stay with us, you're still on Good Morning Nigeria, and our newspaper reviewer is already in the studio. Chukudi Okoli. Chooks, tell us, how did you manage to wade through? How did you manage
wiggle yourself through?
To wade through the?
You thought the rain would hold Akruka back. Who's I? Here I am.
Live and direct.
Here I am.
Always a delight to have
my
you.
way back in time.
Yeah.
When men were men and women were won by those who deserved them.
Yeah.
But what?
Oh boy, I like that. Women were won by those who deserved them. I give you a thumbs up for that.
Thank you.
On that note, let's quickly go to the papers. I'll begin with the Blueprint newspaper, and just above the masthead of the Blueprint newspaper, poor maintenance, faulty switch caused Abuja Kaduna train crash. That's coming from the NSIB. Details on page 20. You want to know the details, go to page 20. And below the masthead, Ewuga was a reputable public servant. The late Ewuga is being remembered by the governor of Nasarawa State and David Mack and all Nigerians. You find the details on page 7. On business, on sports, NNL signs 500 million naira sponsorship deal. For sports enthusiasts, you find all the details on page 32. And the headlines, FG honors Ogoni 4 to resume oil production 30 years after, and directs NSA to begin dialogue among communities and NMPCL. Details on page 8. On the side piece of the picture story, FCT Area Council polls, INEC declares campaign open. Details on page 8. And below the picture story, at Anga 80, Tinubu advocates international court for sovereign debt, action on debt relief. With riders, restates Nigeria's interest in permanent seat at Security Council and says no individual nation holds the key to global peace. Very strong words there by the president. You turn to page 8 for all the details. And the bottom plate, government opens 42 IDP camps as flood submerges 5 Kogi communities. Details on page 7. And credit crunch looms as banks avoid CBN lending. Details on page 20. Police nab 4,383, rescue 1,138 kidnapped victims in 3 months. And Nigeria was Belgium to achieve $74 billion livestock growth by 2035. And the picture story you see there, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Blueprint Newspapers Limited, Malam Salisu Umar, presenting a copy of the paper to Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Lieutenant Colonel Apollina Anele, during her visit to the corporate headquarters of the newspaper in Abuja on Wednesday. Let me quickly go to the Leadership newspaper. On the Leadership newspaper, above the masthead, we have Oscar Ibru's death, a great loss to Orobo Nation and Nigeria. Oporovere, details on page 28. And government issues flood alert to 15 states. Flood submerges 5 Kogi communities. You find the details on page 7 on the Leadership newspaper. And just below the headmask, PENCOM plans fresh reforms to safeguard pension savings. Details on page 4. And with subsidy windfall, states have no excuse for lack of development. That's coming from the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. And the headlines, billionaire Samad Rabiu forecast 1,400 to the dollar exchange rate by year end. Find the details on page 4. And how 12 girls stole 4.8 billion naira materials from Kainji power plant. That's attributed to the police. Details on page 16. Side piece of the picture story, alleged age falsification. Police to arraign retired AIG CPs today. Details on page 7. Despite our friendship, I will work against Tinubu in 2027. That's coming from Sule Lamido, former governor of Jigawa State. Details on page 15. Embattled Rivers ex-administrator Ibas visits president. Find the details on page 21. An investigation bureau blames Abuja Kaduna train derailment on poor maintenance. Find details on page 28. 31 years after tragedy, Tinubu honors Ogoni 4 with CON. This is on page 7. And don't release funds to former APC council chairman. Oshun wants a do. And the picture story there, Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun middle with Taiwanese investors at Shagamu Abeokuta interchange recently. Mr. Damola.
Yes, I have the Daily Trust newspaper here. And just below the nameplate, Kano Maradi Rail project to reach Katsina by December, says the federal government. Details of that story can be found on page 24. Flood destroys houses, farms in Kogi, disrupts activities in Lagos. Page 6. Then policeman killed as gunmen abduct guards in Kwara. Details of that story can be found on page 5. Federal government goes after certificate forgers. That's the major headline of the newspaper for today. And that headline story can be found on page 3 and the front page as well. Reform or risk irrelevance, Tinubu warns at Onga. Family of 6 found unconscious, 1 dead in Benue. Details on page 30. Oshun to federal government don't release LG funds to sacked APC chairman. And CBN, Naira abuse will raise printing cost. Details of that story can be found on page 24. And the front picture says staff of the National Assembly Service Commission barricade entrance to the office in Utako, Abuja yesterday, protesting against poor welfare. Chooks?
Thank you, Demola. There is a statement by Wiki, the subsidy removal, providing a windfall for states. You know, without that windfall, some states would have sunk by now. It's the second time I'm hearing it. The first time was when Daniel Bwala, one of the presidential aides, said that the subsidy removal, the money got from it, saved from it, enabled government to now give money to states that were almost dying.
More money.
I think we need to put this to economists and see how viable that argument is, you know. But hearing it a second time from the FCT minister makes it interesting. And it's a point that we should pursue because many of us see removal of subsidy as one devil that should not have visited us, you know. But they are saying it provided more money for states, kept them afloat and all that. I'm just, you know, popping up that for further reportorial research. FG honors Ogoni 4 to resume production in that area. Exploration rather, 30 years after. That is quite good. I remember when the tribunal pronounced, I was a newscaster in those days, pronounced Kensarawa and 3 others, you know, guilty and somewhere to face the hangman. I remember how Ledum Mite, the one that was freed, sang out of the venue, you know, in all exuberance.
And the efforts of Wole Soyinka and others to appeal to the government to, you know,
put pressure on them.
You know, a military regime, the best military regime is worse than the worst civilian regime as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
You know, there was no need to kill those people.
The draconian,
you know, I want to tell you that the action of late President Yaradua did a lot to douse tension there.
Yes.
Otherwise,
the amnesty,
you know, because the Ogoni people did not really give up. They kept on, they said, come and kill every one of us here. Dialogue. I think it's the ultimate solution to some of these things, you know. It's, did you hear the one about poor maintenance, you know, leading to the derailment of the train? That's let's not go to the cheap resort and nobody will be sacked after all this and all that. Let's talk about being diligent at the duty post. Let's talk about effectiveness at the duty post. Things that produce what's good for humanity around you. It's not palatable to hear that. Actually, they said they were told that a port, that the switch they're talking about, which was manually operated, had become unserviceable. They said they pronounced that even before the derailment. So why were we not proactive in terms of making sure that sadness does not result from a train ride? we shouldn't be listening to things like this by now.
No, we
Mind you, it may not be the fault of the people running it. They may have asked for money to do it and the money didn't come, in which case, that is why it is always good to investigate.
That's what
so
they
that
If
you
not,
know.
listen, if it's not working and it's not working and the
Yes.
money has not been released, what that is, stop the train rides.
Okay,
It's as simple as that.
That
Other
is, they
clients,
don't
that's what they
operate-
would do.
They,
Yes.
they don't operate
My dear,
that real.
politics may not allow the incumbent to stop the train ride.
We need political will to save Nigerian lives.
I know what you're talking
Especially
about.
on the roads and on
But
the
you see,
rail.
when journalists talk about things that are immersed in governance and politics, then the bath belly likes begin, they no rub them back. It's not that easy. But at the end of the day, you're saying what was ideal for Nigerians. Lives first, safety first.
If the train rides have been stopped, those
Yeah.
that use the trains are those in power. Something would have been done.
Yeah, if they have at
You should
least.
not
That's a good
afraid. You
point.
should, if you're heading
Then,
an
well, I think-
agency,
I
you
think
should,
she's
yes,
making
you
a
should
good
not be
Yes,
afraid
yes.
to talk to power to tell them this is because lives were almost lost.
Yes.
People will. Federal government goes after, certificate forgers.
People still forge their certificates.
And age.
They don't get shame.
And age.
Each time, I did the school certificate 3 times. We were trying to get out of very
Yes.
bad grade and all that. Each time they served me the mathematics question paper, I left after 10 minutes. If I don't know what I go write, what I still they do for that place? Well, I was getting A's in my English and all that. Am I not doing well today now? How many people they come up for TV for Nigeria like me?
And also alleged age falsification.
So the point is, why forge a certificate? Under the umbrella the Almighty has spread, there's a space for you. Just learn a skill. Some of the things we pursue are not necessary. There are many ways to kill a rat, to live life,
And on a final note, in 30 seconds, embattled Rivers ex-administrator Ibas visits
I
president.
don't know why he should be embattled. Let him just account for his stewardship. I'm not going to do any alarmist or sensational headline,
Anyway, well, we just have to go now, but, flood destroys houses, farms in Kogi, disrupts activities in Lagos.
The
So,
recurring decimal.
yes,
We have to do
always,
something about.
always. Well, the government is doing something, but also the activities of, we Nigerians also contribute to it a lot.
We must learn to obey simple rules. Hygiene was very important in those days.
So good.
It started from
Our
hygiene.
Saturday sanitation, which was fun. Families would just come out and try to clean.
And we did it community labor, Oh my God.
All right, so, Chooks, we want to community.
Yes, you'll extend that right hand to bounce me out of the
Thank
studio.
you. It's such
Bless you guys.
always a,
Thank you so
a
much.
delight to have you.
The feeling is mutual.
All right.
Thank you so
So
much.
we'll see you tomorrow again.
Okay.
All right. So we'll take a break now. So when we return, we will kickstart our conversation on harnessing potentials of maritime sector. Stay with us.
Have you been aspiring to be a student of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University Zaria to no avail? Worry no more, as you can gain entry through NTA Television College Jos, an affiliate of the renowned Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, where eligible candidates with a JAM admissible scores of not less than 180 and 100 scores, and with 5 credits O-level in social sciences, including English and mathematics, can turn their passion in broadcasting to profession by applying for a BSc in mass communication and MBTE approved innovation diploma courses in film and television production, broadcast journalism, and television engineering, respectively. The college, as a training hub with a pedigree of professionalism in the media space, also offers specialized courses in other related fields. For more information, visit our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or contact 080-33 834-343 and 080-69-809-897. Announcer Management.
Name a problem money can solve.
Poverty.
What?
Health.
Car. School fees.
School fees. Woohoo! Woohoo! Are you married?
Soon to marry, yes.
Where's your boo here?
No,
He's not around. She dedicated. He's not around. That's why he's always on. fine. Name something that flies at night.
Bat, a witch.
So the witch is not there, so not be me talk about. Woohoo! Wow!
Nigeria at 65, a continental giant takes another step forward, navigating the contradiction fueled by a colorful and resourcefully diverse populace, yet questions linger on the destination of state, propelled by the vagaries of nationhood. What is your contribution to this journey? Join the NTA and an eclectic mix of everything Nigerian, from the academic deans to the street kings, who will lend their voices on the platform that has always been a part of the journey. The NTA on October 1st, 2025.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and to set the tone for our conversation this morning, let's listen to the background report by Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
Nigeria sits on a golden coastline of over 853 kilometers, with more than 3,000 kilometers of inland waterways. From Apapa and Oni to Calabar and Warri, our ports and seas hold immense promise, not just for ships and cargo, but for jobs, tourism, security, and national prosperity. Yet, year after year, much of this promise slips away. Globally, maritime economies are engines of growth. Singapore, with far less coastline than Nigeria, has turned its waterways into a hub of global trade. Here at home, inefficiency, congestion, piracy, and underinvestment mean Nigeria loses billions of naira and precious opportunities. Why should it take weeks for cargo to clear in Lagos when other nations do it in days? The federal government is pushing reforms, digital port processes, private sector investments, blue economy initiatives, and renewed anti-piracy patrols. The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, has stepped up safety enforcement, while the Deep Blue project targets insecurity at sea. Still, questions remain. How do we reduce corruption at ports, modernize infrastructure, and build trust for investors? How do we create a maritime culture where Nigerian youths see the sea not just as water, but as opportunity? Harnessing Nigeria's maritime potentials is not just about ships and oil platforms. It is about building an economy that works beyond land. From shipbuilding to fisheries, logistics to tourism, the opportunities are vast. But unless policies meet practice, the tide will keep carrying wealth away. Up next, our guests, leaders in maritime affairs and experts who live and breathe this sector, will explore how Nigeria can finally anchor her maritime wealth, improve governance, and ensure the seas become highways of national progress, not channels of lost opportunity.
Thank you very much, Hamidu, for that extensive background report there. And we already have in our studio for the discussion some of our guests to discuss the topic for today, which is harnessing potentials of the maritime sector. Let me welcome to the studio this morning Captain Caleb Danladi Bako. He's a seasoned master mariner and founder of Fulham Marine and Offshore Services Limited. Dr. Bako, you are welcome to, Captain Bako rather, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, viewers, and thank you for having me in this program.
It's a wet morning, and we're so glad you could make it to the studio.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite a wet morning this morning in Abuja, so
all right.
Well, it shows a blessing to the international maritime community, today being the International Maritime Day.
Yes.
So let me just use the opportunity to wish all the maritime experts, all the Nigerians, a happy International Maritime Day.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Welcome. And we also have joining us via Zoom From Lagos, Engineer Emmanuel Ilori, former Senior Marine Surveyor, Laird Registrar, London. Thank you. Okay, he's in Lagos studio. We thank you so much for joining us. London. Thank you. Okay, he's in Lagos studio. We thank you. Okay, we also have Dr. Shehu Usman Gidado, Director, Maritime Transport Nigeria Institute of Transport Technology, NITT, Zaria. He's joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and happy World Maritime Day, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, thank you so much, our guest. Okay, let's kickstart our conversation. Today is World Maritime Day, and we are looking at, the harnessing the potentials in the maritime sector. Let's first examine the theme for today's event. What is the theme all about, and what are some of the most significant challenges hindering the growth of the maritime sector in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much for this very important question. And today is a very, very significant day in the maritime industry, not in Nigeria, but in the global landscape.
Okay.
Today we are celebrating the International Maritime Day. Today is a crucial day for us to recognize the importance of shipping. So the theme for 2025 is our oceans, our obligation, and our opportunity. It's a very, very important theme. But before I go into the theme, it's very, very important for Nigerians to know why International Maritime Day is being celebrated annually. The International Maritime Day was first celebrated in 1978 to mark the 20th anniversary of IMO, that is the International Maritime Organization, which is a dedicated UN agency that improves safety of life at sea and deal with maritime shipping and blue economy activities. So we celebrate this day to showcase the importance of shipping. As you are aware, more than 70 to 80% of global trade today is being carried via maritime transportation. That shows you the importance. And the day is also being celebrated to highlight the key roles that the International Maritime Organization are playing when it comes to safety, security, and sustainability.
Okay.
So it's very, very important. So back to the theme of 2025. When we talk about our oceans, the ocean is a home to thousands and millions of species that are being used for biodiversity, biomedical reasons. The oceans also is a home for climate change regulator. It's very, very important in that aspect. Also, when you look at the global trade, without the ocean, it's impossible. So more than 80% of global trade move through the ocean, which is very, very important. They are gateways to nations' economy. And if you look at the blue economy, there are a lot of untapped resources when it comes to blue economy. According to the United Nations, it says the blue economy is capable of generating more than 5 trillion annually and capable of generating more than 350 million jobs, which is very, very important.
That's huge.
That's huge. That is to show you that the sector is huge. So it's very, very important. And if you also look at our oceans, it's a source of employment opportunity to thousands and millions of people. And also it's also the source of food security. When you talk about fisheries, it's very, very important. So let's now look at our own obligation. We have the ocean, and we have a collective responsibility. We have a collective obligation to protect this ocean, to protect the marine species, to protect the ocean from degrading. And those responsibilities, it has to do with the organization like the International Maritime Organizations. We have national organizations like in Nigeria we have the NIMASA. We also have individuals also have their key roles to play. The companies have their key roles to play. Our obligation is to ensure that our oceans are safe. Our oceans are not being polluted, like pollutions from ships, dumping plastic waste. So it's a collective responsibility. You look at now the whole world is moving towards climate change. There has been emphasis on climate change. decarbonization, so that by 2050 we should be able to meet net zero carbon emission. So it's very, very important. This is our own obligation. And part of that, the International Maritime Organization, which is a specialized agency, have developed a lot of regulations, a lot of conventions to be able to address the issue of marine pollution from ships, and also to address the issue of degradation of marine environment. And part of those conventions are, for instance, we have the International Marine Pollution Convention 1973, as reviewed by the Protocol of 1978. It addressed the issue of pollution from oil, pollution from garbage, pollution from harmful substance in bulk forms, pollution from marine air pollution. Is very, very important, and with that is going to address a lot of issues. We also have the issue of ballast water management system, which prevent the moving of, let's assume you are loading a ship in Cameroon today and you are coming to Nigeria. So you should be able to treat the water you pick from Cameroon to avoid moving harmful substances or some sort of species that will harm our own species here in Nigeria. So it's very important. So they are being able to address that. It's very important. So it's our obligation to protect the marine environment as individuals. Not to throw plastics to the sea is very, very important. Then let's look at our opportunity. You talk about there are a lot of untapped resources when it comes to the blue economy. We can leverage on the opportunity also to generate power from windmill. And by that, we are addressing the issue of decarbonization and climate change, because it means we are burning less fossil fuel. We also have to invest more on coastal tourism or maritime tourism. Those are the opportunities. Opportunity for digitalization is very, very important. We also have a lot of potentials for the blue economy through job creation. It's very, very important. If you look at the offshore industry today, all the oil is being produced. How is it being transported? It's through the sea. So there's a lot of opportunity. We must be able to leverage on this opportunity and the untapped resources. You talk about food security. You talk about fisheries. You talk about research and development when it talks to medical aspect. A lot of pharmaceutical companies use the marine species to produce the medical services.
We have to pause you there.
We have to pause you. You know, you are so passionate about the maritime sector.
Okay,
so
let's
go. Get to
let me quickly go
guests.
to Engineer Emmanuel Ilori, former senior marine surveyor, Lloyd's Registrar, London, in our Lagos studio. You've listened to Captain Caleb Danladi, giving us an expanded explanation on what the theme for today is. So we have to say Happy International Maritime Day. And I remember the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu talking about the potentials in the marine economy when he created the Blue Economy Ministry and as a new frontier. So what specific actions have been taken to ensure that Nigeria taps into their potentials and creates jobs, better environment for Nigerians to live in, and every other thing that comes with getting the potentials and making sure that the blue economy generates money for Nigeria and the GDP?
Very much for having me on this very great day that Nigeria joins the global community to celebrate the World Maritime Day. We are here in Lagos actually preparing for that event, and we'll be talking to the various diplomatic communities, the industry, and the regulators to highlight Nigeria's potential as part of the global maritime community. Now, back to the specific of this one, the question you have asked. First and foremost, let me thank the President for creating the Marine and Blue Economy Ministry. For years, some of the things said by my colleague, Captain Caleb, we have been advocating for these issues. But Nigeria being who we are, we have a lot of theory, a lot of talk about in the abstract. But why are we not pragmatic in making all these things possible? And that's the biggest issue that we need to address. And the President creating the Maritime Ministry is the first real step in the right direction where we can begin to articulate the potentials, the opportunities, and even the threats that are facing this important sector. I mean, what he has said about the oil industry, Nigeria is about the 7th or even 8th oil producer. But this particular important industry that supports Nigeria economy is pinned on the maritime sector, is pinned on water. Either the oil rigs that produce the oil and the exploration, or the tankers that export them, or the facilities that support the oil industry, they are all water or marine-based industry. Let's take Lagos on another point. About 3,000 vessels arrive in Lagos annually. Is there any of these vessels built or even owned by Nigeria? And that's the backbone of our economy. So the issue now is that we need to begin to move beyond abstract and start to make Nigeria a practical maritime nation. Until we do that, we will still be talking. I remember I've been at this station a few times addressing these issues. So the issue is now to move away from talking and go into the doing. And as a member of the global maritime community, Nigeria is still far, far behind. And as this is a call to the issue of policy and regulation. What are the issues that are preventing the maritime or the blue economy from progressing? So this is very, very critical. And until we begin to see the issues preventing the maritime industry from growing, then I suppose we will not be going very far. Let's take, for instance, in your opening report, you talk about the inland waterways, because we need to start from home. You cannot improve without putting your house in order. You said about 3,000 kilometers of waterways. That is waterway that we can use. And we hear the focus these days about accidents, people dying on the waterways. Why don't we begin to look at the fundamental issues that can help us to make inland waterways to be a major contributor to the economy? The colonial masters who came to Nigeria pinched the development and the operations in Nigeria on a viable waterway system. But at the moment, that is not happening. I will know we have had a lot of reports, and I can tell you we have reports and reports and reports. So why are we not getting it right? Why is the waterways that help Nigeria to develop no more doing so? So that's on the aspects of development. Now, we have made efforts. We went to copy the Jones Act from the United States. But without them having the basic infrastructure, the basic system, the Jones Act would not have worked. So they had the infrastructure in place, they had the technology in place, they had the people in place to make sure that the Jones Act worked. But what America did at that time was that they are not, the Americans are not directly involved in the operation of their maritime industry. So Jones Act came to place. But in Nigeria, what did we do? We copied the Jones Act nearly verbatim. But the fundamentals necessary to make the maritime industry here work were not put in place. So what we then have is a lawyer's paradise where everybody is looking for waiver to escape compliance with the maritime industry. I don't blame them. Because one, we don't build the ships in Nigeria, or with the quality vessels necessary to support business is not available in Nigeria. We said the vessels must be owned by Nigerians. Not quite so. And what is preventing them from owning the vessel, I'll come to that in a minute, must be manned by Nigeria. In the past, we used to have competent Nigerians, meaning going to sea is not a child's play. You must be competent, otherwise you'll be a danger to the owners and to the vessels and to the ocean itself. Well, now today, we don't have experienced and competent Nigerians to be able to man that cabotage regime. So we have a lot of challenges of implementation, challenges of policy and regulations to look at what are the things preventing successful maritime business in Nigeria. There's no shortage of papers, of reports, but the shortage is how do we implement it. And the implementation means we must have competent people in the right places to advise the government, to operate the system, to make it work. You competent people to even run the companies. I mean, I'm happy that Captain Caleb is there, so he's well versed enough, but how many of them are there running companies? So you find that somebody will go and take money from the bank, but because he doesn't understand the nitty-gritty of that business, of the maritime sector, in no small time, they are going to go bankrupt. So these are some of the issues I believe we should be discussing this morning. The implementation and the practicalization of the marine blue economy.
Lori, for raising those issues there. And gladly, we have joining us also to discuss this issue, the essay to the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Media and Communication. That's talking about Dr. Bolaji Akinola. Dr. Bolaji Akinola, it's good to have you join us on this discussion this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, Dr. Akinola, we'll just stay with you now. And Dr. Ilori has raised a lot of issues confronting, the marine and the blue economy, especially not not harnessing the huge potential in that sector. Tell us what specific policies or initiatives has the government, implemented to support the development of the Nigeria's maritime sector?
Thank you very much. And let me also start by saying Happy World Maritime Day to all of us in the sector. And yes, I listened to the previous speakers. I also listened to what Engineer Ilori said, highlighting the problems and the challenges. But I thought Engineer Ilori, who is someone that is also close to the ministry, would have also mentioned some of the efforts that are ongoing to address those challenges. Yes, those challenges are there, but don't forget we now have the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy for the first time in the history of this country. And that ministry is just about 2 years old, and I'm happy to inform you that the Honorable Minister has taken the bold step of addressing those issues. The starting point for the minister was to create a roadmap for helping us to harness our much touted maritime potentials. For him, it is not enough to just come and start addressing these issues piecemeal. He thought, and rightly so, that there should be a roadmap. And he immediately set up a team of experts to formulate what is now known as the National Policy on Marine and Blue Economy. We have that policy. It was approved by the Federal Executive Council on May 6th this year. So we have that policy as a roadmap. It addresses all the issues that need to be addressed in the sector. It's a 10-year roadmap. And we are now gradually beginning to address those issues. During the report, there was talk about the ports, the delays at the ports, and the various challenges at the port. And that is true. But I tell you, that is already on the path to resolution. You might be aware that the federal government has awarded a $1 billion contract for the upgrade and modernization of both the Lagos Port Complex, that's the Apapa Port, and the Tinkan Island Ports in Lagos. Those are the two largest seaports in Nigeria today. And we already have a definite approved contract to deal with the issues. And it has a 48-month timeline. Once that contract is completed, we will be able to attract much larger vessels to both Apapa and Tinkan, and those challenges of bottlenecks within the cargo clearing system will be eliminated and addressed. So it's going to take a little while more to deal with that. And don't forget also, immediately the minister came, he tackled the issue of Apapa gridlock headlong. Most of us no longer hear about Apapa gridlock, and nobody even bothers to find out how it happened. Apapa gridlock disappeared within the first 6 months of the minister's tenure, and we know the implication of Apapa gridlock at the time. So, but because of time, I will not go into the nitty-gritty of that. But the issue of port challenges, I assure you, is being addressed. Also, the procurement contracts for the modernization of and upgrade of the eastern ports, the ports in Port Harcourt, Onne, Warri, and the rest of them, is already in the works. So you see, all these things will not happen in just 2 years. There are processes that must be followed. Maritime contracts are usually long-term contracts, and they take time to mature. So yes, the port issue is being dealt with. Now, in addition to the rehabilitation and modernization of the port, you know that the government is also very much interested in developing new deep sea ports across the country. In addition to that, there is now what is known as the National Single Windows Platform. And His Excellency, Mr. President, has given the marching order that by the first quarter of next year, the National Single Window must take effect. And that is going to address a whole lot of clearing bottlenecks that are associated with the cargo clearing system at the port. The National Single Window Platform brings together all those involved in the clearing and processing system on one single digital platform. And that is the game changer for the ports. I want to appeal to Nigerians to just be patient. We are moving. Engineer Ilori talked about moving from rhetoric to action. I tell you, yes, that movement has started from rhetoric to action. Now, you are even talking about coastal operation. In our coastal operation, the minister has already talked about ending waiver for coastal vessels for our cabotage operation. And this is not mere rhetoric. He has taken concrete and definite steps to end waivers so that Nigerians will take charge of our coastal operation. There is what is known as the Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, which has been locked up for over 20 years. That fund was set up to enable Nigerians, qualified Nigerian ship owners, to access funds digit rate to acquire vessels. For the first time in more than 20 years, the Honorable Minister has directed the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, to immediately unlock that fund and allow Nigerian ship owners to access it, to acquire vessels, so that we can take charge of our coastal trade, and so on and so forth. Also, in the area of inland waterways, yes, a lot of work is also going. It will take time to mature. I can go on and on in the areas of inland waterways,
okay.
even in the areas of fishing.
Okay, Dr. Bolaji, I have to pause you there so that we can bring in Dr. Shehu Usman Gidado into this conversation now. He's the Director, Maritime Transport, Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology. And all the guests have raised the issue. We don't control our ports. We don't build the ships and all that. So let's talk about how prepared are Nigeria's institutions to train the skilled workforce required for shipbuilding, offshore energy, and of course, port management. And I'm going to talk about the gaps that exist in curriculum or research for blue economy development in Nigeria. Can you talk to us about it? Put us through how prepared we are.
Thank you, Jumai, for this question. And I think currently Nigeria has been preparing for a long time, but the output is what matters today. We have only had the Maritime Academy since 1970s till today, training cadets and seafarers. But away from all this, for us to harness the maritime economy in this country, we have to address the issue of ports, ships, and freight services, because that is the most important and gainful aspect of the maritime economy, the commercials. So for getting the adequate manpower on the ships is one thing. Getting the ports ready to receive cargo is another. So the most important aspect of the commercial side of the maritime economy is when you have the ports well developed, you have ships being welcome at these ports, and you have freight services running for imports and exports. In Nigeria today, we happen to have, I will come back to the issue of seafaring and manning of ships, but today in Nigeria, we have a large quantity of cargo, both in terms of imports and exports. And the House and everyone has acknowledged the fact that international trade is largely supported by shipping. Most of the cargo, 80 to 90% of global trades, dwell on shipping services. And that is one important aspect that Nigeria needs to harness. Because in the maritime industry, it is not the ships that matters. The port one matters, then the cargo. If there is the cargo and the port is there, then getting a ship or even building one or acquiring one is just the easiest. That's why in the maritime parlance we say it is not money that buys ships, but it is cargo that the ships carry that acquire these ships. So, and in Nigeria today, we have large volume of cargo, oil-related cargo, liquid cargo, almost every day. We ship them to other countries. If you look around this country today, most of the things we have around us have some elements of imports, which means they were brought in from somewhere. And this very fact makes it for Nigeria to be more serious about developing the shipping industry aspect of maritime economy. Because the ocean, as we all know, and we can acknowledge, has been more important to this world in terms of transport, in terms of moving goods from one location to the other. And this is done by the ships. And these ships are manned by the seafarers. So here comes the issue of seafaring. In Nigeria, we have been training seafarers. They ended up to be cadets who need experience on board ships, but looking around, we don't have the ships to accommodate all the cadets we train. And in seafaring, it is experience that matters. The more experience you get, the more work you do, and the higher you move up the ladder. So, if we, as we have been training all this while, we ended up with trainees that cannot go further. We have few ship captains today around the world. We have few cadets today compared to the large number of ships that moves around the world. So in order to actually harness our real blue economy, we have to start again back from the drawing board, not really from the drawing board, but we have to start local. What do I mean by starting local? The Cabotage Act, which stipulates that coastal and inland shipping should be 100% localized. Ships we use for cabotage should be built in this country, should be owned by Nigerians, and has to be registered in Nigeria, and most of all to be manned by indigenous Nigerians. So at this manning level, it means if we can develop ships that can ply our cabotage routes, then we can have enough vessels to further train our seafarers to man these ships, to keep them working on board ships. It's what they were trained. But after training, if they come out and they cannot get engaged by ships, while we allow other foreign ships, either built on or registered in other countries, to come and move our goods, because cabotage everywhere around the world is a local transport service. Every country tries to protect its own local cargo movement. And that is the basis for which the Cabotage Act was really enacted in 2003. And if I can draw it back to history, Cabotage Act came because the former acts establishing the National Maritime Authority, which spell out the issues of or concentrate of indigenous shipping development, could not function because of high competition. And you cannot dissociate international shipping from international competition.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gidado, for your opening contribution there. We know the importance of this Cabotage Act and the need for us to, do everything possible to grow the maritime industry. Well, we would like our viewers to send in their comments and questions. We want you to participate in today's discussion that is harnessing the potential in the maritime sector. So the number is displayed on your screen. You can send in your questions. You can send in your comments. Let's go back to the essay to the minister, because I want you to respond to the issue of this Cabotage Act, because our focus actually is to actually grow the maritime sector. Tell us what role, is the private sector, how is government promoting the private sector, in driving the growth and investment in that sector?
Thank you very much. The key components of the Cabotage Act is to have vessels owned by Nigerians, manned by Nigerians, and such vessels are also to be maintained in Nigeria. There is also the building component of those vessels. So the starting point for us is to help Nigerian ship owners in this case, to own vessels. And that's the private sector. Government is not going to own those vessels. But vessel acquisition is capital intensive. And borrowing in Nigeria is extremely difficult, especially for acquisition of vessels. It's difficult and it is very expensive. If you borrow at the going commercial rate in the banks, it will be very difficult for the ship owner to break even. And it will even be very difficult for him to pay within the tenure that he will be given within the context of our commercial banking. And that is why we have the Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, which was created along with the Cabotage Act of 2003. But for over 20 years of its existence, The Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund has not been disbursed to Nigerian ship owners to help them acquire vessels. What this government is doing now is to unlock that fund to allow private sector ship owners to access the fund. They can access as much as $10 million each of them, the ones that qualify to access, and they can acquire vessel, and that way we can begin to take control of our coastal trade. The second leg of it is the crewing, which you talked about earlier. We have what is known as the National Seafarers Development Program, NSDP, which has been a major platform for training seafarers, not just for our own use, but for us to even export manpower and earn much needed foreign exchange. And that is going very well, in addition to what the Maritime Academy of Nigeria, MAN Oron, is doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I will now return to the studio where Captain Caleb Danladi is seated. You've listened to the other guests bringing out issues, and telling us what should be done in the maritime sector. And I know that several countries, both developed and developing, have tapped into this potential. For example, Kenya, back in here in Africa, South Africa, Mauritius, and Seychelles. And one interesting thing I saw is island states leading in sustainable fishery, marine tourism, and renewable energy. Seychelles has pioneered the first blue bond to finance ocean conservation. That's quite nice, and other countries are also tapping into it. We are just beginning to understand what it means to tap and into the potentials of the maritime, and conservation is very, very important for us to be able to have gains in that sector. So what kind of reforms do you think the government should put in place to ensure that indeed we can tap into it with better conservation and healthy living for our people living on the coastline itself?
Okay, this is a very, very important question and it's timely. Before I go deep, first of all, if you do something that is commendable, you need to be commended. So first of all, I have to commend the Nigerian government for the effort and the political will for creating the Ministry of Blue Economy from the former Ministry of Transportation. So this gives them an area of focus where they will focus more on blue economy and focus on policy development, which is an important step, and it shows the political will from the government. So for us to be able to go into this blue economy, to unlock the potentials, the right policies must be there. For instance now, let's start with people. Human capital development is very, very important. You can have the ships, you can have the ports, you can have the cargo, but without the manpower, you are going nowhere. So we need to develop manpower. And the Nigerian Seafarers Development Program is there, but a lot needs to be done. For instance, the cadets from Maritime Academy of Nigeria, Oron, that have graduated, they need to have bed space for training. There is one thing for you to go to the Maritime Academy of Nigeria, Oron, to have the theoretical certificate, but you need practical experience. You need a minimum of 12 to 18 months sea time to be able to gain what we call certificate of competency to be an officer on board the ship. So that sea time is lacking for them because there are no sufficient bed space. That being said, a lot of efforts have been made when we come to the Seafarers Development Program. We have to acknowledge that. But the government must also do more in terms of providing bed space for these cadets so that they will be able to write their certificate of competency. So human capital development is important. The second aspect, we have to invest in digitalization and infrastructure.
Like Singapore is doing.
Like single window system. I've read, and it's a right step. By the first quarter of next year, we'll have a single window system. The challenges we are having today of multiple government agencies in ports, duplication of roles, will be a thing of the past if we have the single window system. Single window system is going to address all these challenges and is going to improve port efficiency. Our port will be competitive. That's very, very important. We need to invest on that. We also need to invest in the state-of-art equipment. The SA to the minister have said contracts have been awarded, which is very, very good. So we need to invest on infrastructure, which is very, very important. And the very important aspect about the policies, there must be strict enforcement. For people living in coastal areas, there must be strict enforcement and penalties for those people who dump waste that is going to affect our oceans, that is going to affect our blue economy. For people who burn illegal mining at sea, that is affecting the climate change, there should be a strict policy and a strict enforcement requirement. Penalties must be paid for people who violate those policies, which is very important. And the other aspect is about the cabotage law. If you look at the Jones Act of US, as Engineer Ilori has said, and the essay to the minister have said, of 1920, the US today, all the vessels in the US that are trading within the coastal water are built by the United States, they are crewed by the United States, and they are owned by the United States. In that, you have what we call the local content, and you are providing job opportunities to your locals. So the idea of restricting waivers now is a very good step in the right direction. We should be able to disburse these cabotage vessel funds to prospective ship owners. Is very, very important. Another aspect is still about investment. We need to invest on digitalization because the world is moving at a fast pace. We need to invest. If you look at the port of Morocco today, the Tangier Med today is a hub in the north of Africa, and it's among the top 100 ports in the world. What did they do? They invest in digitalization. They invest in a state-of-the-art facility. So it's very, very important for us to look into those aspects. Another crucial aspect that we can shy away from it is about maritime safety. Today you hear in the news that 10 people have died in boat mishap, 15 people. So there should be a national policy that should be able to address the issue of boat mishap because they are also part of the blue economy. We are talking about coastal tourism. People have to move with boats from one point to the other. There are communities that don't have roads. They don't have access roads. So the easiest means of transportation is by boats. And I know the government has done a lot by distributing life jackets, and they have raised awareness, but it's a collective responsibility, not the government alone. The private sectors have a key role to play. The community leaders themselves have a key role to play when it comes to improving safety in coastal areas. Because without safety in coastal area, we cannot be able to tap into the potential when it comes to fisheries. You can go for fishing, and when you don't have the safety gear there and then the boat capsized, you are not back. So it's very, very important for us to have that national policies, that every boat, and then we have to look at the alternative of phasing out the wooden boats. Today, it's not easy, but it's achievable. There are a lot of strategies that can be developed, such as you can bring in your old boat to trade for a new boat. Some sort of tax relief incentives must be given to these people in coastal areas. Another very, very important aspect, we are talking about decarbonization. Today, for us to achieve the 2050 carbon footprint, we must be able to invest on renewable energies. And when it comes to blue economy, you talk about the wind power. We have not tapped that potential in Nigeria. So we should be able to attract private investors to come and invest in wind power so that we can reduce our reliance on the fossil fuel that causes sulfur emission and also contribute to degradation of the atmosphere. And when it comes to climate change, we are talking about climate change. Climate change is very, very important.
We're still far behind in wind.
Of course, we are far behind, but the potential is there. I've read through the National Policy on Blue Economy. It's stated there. So I believe the 10 years plan is going to address those issues and those challenges. Actually, the policy is a very, very important policy that we have ever had when it comes to blue economy. But the policy must be implemented. That is very, very important and very crucial. So we must be able to tap into this renewable energy. Very, very important. And if you look at the global trading pattern today, with the challenges of the geopolitical instability in the Middle East, There's the Red Sea, you look at the Ukraine war. It has changed a lot of trading patterns. For instance, now, ships that are coming from Asia to Europe have to go through, initially have to go through the Suez Canal. So the journey of 10 days is now 20 days because they have to reroute their vessel through the Cape of Good Hope. And how? Nigeria is strategically located in Gulf of Guinea, right? And if we invest our resources, we will be, these ships that are routing for 20 days, they will need extra fuel. There's opportunity for us to bunker, for them to bunker in Nigeria.
Okay.
There's opportunity for them to carry out crew changes in Nigeria. There's opportunity for them to carry out ship repairs in Nigeria. And if you also look at the global pattern, there are changes in the way ships are being built and designed today. So Nigerians, and not only the government, the private individuals should also invest in alternative bunkering system. For instance, the LNG system, you can be able to invest because the trading pattern has changed. So ships now has to stay longer days at sea, and they need fuel, which is bunkers to burn. So Nigeria will now become a bunkering hub for a lot of ships that are transiting.
Okay, Captain. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have so much to dish out. But let's go to our studio in Lagos, where we have Engineer Ilori now. We're looking at some of the challenges and how these challenges can be addressed. Tell us, what role do you think the stakeholders, including the people in the industry players, civil society, can play in promoting the sustainable development in this maritime sector? Tell us.
Again, from the studio, we are seeing initiatives, and beautiful initiatives, but the cost of doing business, marine business in Nigeria, is so enormous. And the few players that are making waves are having challenges. So we need to look at the issues, the obstacles from doing business. Thank you very much, because we have said the Honorable Minister is looking at the issue of the port, and I want to address these things holistically. Fantastic. Nigeria can have beautiful ports. But the vessels that are going to berth and do business in these ports, is there any one of them built in Nigeria? Is there any one of them owned by Nigeria? That means whatever is being generated there is going abroad. That's capital flight. And we need to address the issue of capital flight, because if the maritime capital stays in Nigeria, we can then improve our maritime industry. Now, we're talking about the Captain Caleb talked about the issue of ship routing and them passing through Nigerian waters, because Nigeria has been a major shipping route. But the cost of vessels coming to Nigeria, and I'm talking about war risk now. If you want to come to Nigeria, I think the issue of war risk has become a major problem for vessels trading into or passing through Nigeria. And why? Why is the war risk so high? Because the Nigerian waters has been militarized, rightly or wrongly. So we need to begin to address some of those challenges that are mitigating against our development. Now, on Cabotage Vessel Finance Fund, yes, the minister has made a statement, but it's not going to take a long time for that fund to be depleted. Why? Because we are giving money to Nigerian ship owners to go and buy built vessels that are built abroad. So what is our money doing? Our money is going abroad to develop foreign shipyards. I would like to say, what stops us to look at our cabotage vessel needs in the first instance. So if we know the type, the quantity and quality of vessels that we need to operate the cabotage industry, then we can invite shipbuilders. If Nigerians can collaborate with shipbuilders so that first and foremost the vessels are built here in Nigeria. I mean, we've waited for 20 years, for goodness sake, for this cabotage vessel fund to be disbursed. So maybe we can wait a little bit, pause and say, okay, what are the vessel needs for Nigeria? How can they be built in Nigeria? How can we use the cabotage fund to ensure that we are building the vessels in Nigeria? Then Nigerian ship owners can then access those vessels that are built in Nigeria. Where we copy the cabotage policy from in America, they ensure that the vessels were first and foremost built in America. So that should be the first port of call. Let us build the vessels in Nigeria. The ship owners can invest in the build. Let them tell us the vessel needs that we have in Nigeria. The experts that they have identified to do this, one of their first jobs is to tell us the vessel needs that we have. Then invite Nigerian shipbuilding industry in collaboration with the international shipbuilding industry so that those vessels can be built in Nigeria. It's no more rocket science to build vessels, those small vessels. Then and then only will we be able to make sure that the cabotage vessel fund is sustainable. Because the way we are going at the moment with this current arrangement, that vessel cabotage finance fund is going to be depleted in no short time. Now, on the issue of NSDP, fantastic initiative initially, but the issue of
some minutes because the essay will be leaving us by 8:30 so that I can throw the question to him. I have some comments by our viewers that came in. One of them is saying, I'm watching the discussion on NT. I hope the essay is listening, and I want to appeal that NIMASA should please help us seafarers by providing identity cards. This will give us proper recognition and make our work easier. Thank you. That's Engineer Elias Jordan. And somebody wrote, he said on his take on why no appreciable development and growth in our maritime sector, and actually in almost every sector in Nigeria, is because oftentimes there's no proper and definitive outline to serve as a guide for development projects. No funds and not enough funds appropriated for the project. No adequately trained and committed professionals on the job. If you can respond to some of that before we let you go, we hear you leaving us by 8:30.
Thank you very much. It's because we have the World Maritime Day event at Eco Hotel, and it's to be starting at about 9, and I have a key role to play, and the Honorable Minister will be there too. So kindly allow me to leave after answering these questions. One, the issue of SID, Seafarers Identity Documents, is ongoing. It's being handled by one of our agencies, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. But now that one of our viewers mentioned it, I will be sure to take it up also with NIMASA and find out the level of progress. Number two, talking about policy, I've mentioned that we have a policy. Gradually, it will be implemented. Let me also say that the development of our maritime sector does not rest only on the government. It rests on all of us. Engineer Ilori talked about starting a shipyard. Government has no business being in business. What the maritime policy has done is to open the turf for experts, for investors to come in and set up and take advantage and make money. So I challenge you, sir. What you have said, that we need a shipyard in Nigeria, I agree. Please take that initiative too. Invite your friends from abroad to come invest in Nigerian shipyard. This government is is business friendly. It has opened up for investors. We have them coming in already. Some are investing in our ports. Some are investing in vessel acquisitions and the rest of them. Please also join us to invite investors to come. You can also invest and let's together develop the maritime sector. Government is not going to build a shipyard. The responsibility of government is to create the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. And that is exactly what we are doing. And finally, my final contribution will be on fisheries. It was mentioned earlier, but I think it's important to also let Nigerians know that the Department of Fisheries is now under the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. It used to be under Ministry of Agriculture. And since it was brought under the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, a lot of work has been ongoing to upscale local fish production. The Honorable Minister has promised Nigerians that within the next couple of years, we will see an end or a drastic reduction in importation of fish into our country. He is working with all the fishing groups in Nigeria, all the cooperative groups, the artisanal fishing, those involved with fishing trawling, and the rest of them. A lot of work is ongoing quietly to make sure that we are able to produce the fish that we consume in Nigeria, and eventually to even be able to export from here and reduce our dependence on imported fish. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bolaji Akinola, for your contribution this morning. We know that you have to go, so we wish you a successful Maritime Day celebration today. So we take a break now. When we return, all the other comments and questions will be read out, and our guests will be here to respond to them. Stay with us.
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses, and of course harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening. But that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. We will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that again is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect what you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And our discussion is still on harnessing the potential in the maritime sector. And we still have our guests. Our three guests are still here with us. Let's read out some of the comments that we have here. And we'll go to our Zoom guest. That's Dr. Gidado, so that he can respond to some of this. This one is from Jack Abba from Makodi. He said, thinking deeply on how maritime activities can contribute to the harnessing of potential to grow our economy, I would want to ask the guest on what becomes of the Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research at Victoria Island, Lagos. Can such an important institution still be approximately equipped to help the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy to produce experts? Then this second one is from Comrade Titus Asubuat Inyang from Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. It says, what sustainable strategies are in place to tackle piracy, illegal bunkering, and smuggling in our waterways? Dr. Gidado, you want to respond to some of these questions?
Yes, thank you. I think there are two things going on here. The Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research primarily was under the Ministry of Agriculture and concentrating mainly on issues of fisheries. So most of the research going on at the Institute has more or less things that has to do with fishing. So, but today, the Institute actually has upgraded, and of course it has been training young Nigerians on diploma and higher national diploma courses like fisheries, marine technology, and others. So this institute today needs to also be more specialized. Apart from that is to go into more in-depth research into the blue economy, particularly into the objective of harnessing like energy production through ocean waves, then harnessing different type of fisheries and other fish species that are found in our coastal areas, and also come up with good regulatory policies about fishing in this country, because that is where we have certain lapses, such that people come from all nooks and crannies of this world to do fishing within our shores and then get away with it, while our indigenous fishermen are just left to do the ones just by the coastal areas, by the shores. So, and at the end of the day, catching less. So, I think a good strengthening and refocusing of that institute can actually bring good results in that direction. Then when it comes to the issue of piracy, already NIMASA has established a legislative backing for punishing those who are caught in issues of piracy. And that has been on for some time, but most of all, the agency has invested so much in surveillance, patrol, and other equipment needed to safeguard our ocean and coastline, including the Gulf of Guinea, from piracy. And there's this saying for the past two years now, the Gulf of Guinea has not witnessed any major act of piracy, robbery, or similar things, which is close to the actual investment made by MASA in and services. Tell that it's a good result. That investment is not already. So, most of all, we need to again improve our focus towards indigenization of most of the things we do within our maritime industry. It's always, we cannot run away from foreign competition. So, but definitely with additional investment, as I was saying earlier, in ports, in ships, particularly shipbuilding, we can't run away from that. And if government is no longer doing that, because government has concession that we have even privatized the Niger dock that we used to have, which was the biggest shipyard in West and Central African region. So we still need to coerce and then also attract foreign investors towards coming up with another shipyard, because we have a very high demand for ships. We have a high demand for local built boats that can run our coastal and inland waterways, particularly now that we want to phase out the rickety boats that we know have been causing a lot of crisis in this sector. We also need to participate in building larger ships, because with that, we cannot, or rather without that, we cannot defend our cabotage policy. Cabotage policy must be there, and is a very important aspect of indigenization, and that was the primary focus why that act came up, so that most of the business activities going on in our maritime sector should have some ample level of indigenous participation. Today, I bet you, and the industry know that, most of the ships that visit our ports are foreign ships. Most of the ships that serve this country are either chartered. Very few are completely owned by Nigerians. Very few are completely manned by Nigerians. And very few of them are registered here in Nigeria. And that was what the Cabotage Act wanted us to start from. Let's master our local terrain, control our coastal and inland shipping. Then with that experience, we can go into international seagoing, international freight, because we are losing so much in this country. And as I said earlier, you don't need money to buy a ship. You just need a job for a ship and you can buy a ship. Because if there is cargo to carry, there is every avenue and opportunity to acquire a vessel. And there are many ways of doing that: chartering, leasing, hiring, okay, and maybe building on a gradual basis. You can build your ship like building a house. Take 2 years, put the foundation, put the hulls, put cabins, gradually. So it's not as if these are very difficult tasks, but we have to draw the interest of our indigenous maritime operators. People are very hesitant about investing in the sector, particularly Nigerians. Lekki Port was not built by Nigerians. That is the biggest port we have here. Okay, we just have a little stake, and we are proposing Badagry Port, which should also be well indigenized, particularly maybe to generate funds from local investors. Our ship acquisition and shipbuilding fund, which is about to be disbursed, should be, disbursed in such a way that it can stimulate both building and ownership of these vessels locally. If we take this money to acquire ships from abroad,
Dr. Gidado, we understand where you're going to. We need local content to be able to tap into the potential of the maritime industry. Let's bring in Engineer Ilori into this conversation, but I'm going to read a comment from one of our viewers from Adamawa State, Prince Victor Stephen. He said, Numan local government in Adamawa State, northeast Nigeria, is a port country at the confluence of the Benue and Kongole rivers. What is the possibility of having regional subports that would transport cargo from the Lagos port to regional ports? Numan used to have ships coming as far back as the late 1800s. How can this avenue be revived? While you respond to this, and the essay also threw a challenge to you about bringing global partners into this country. So are there enough partnership now with global institutions to meet international standards if and when we begin to build our ships?
Thank you very much. I think we are beginning to address the fundamentals of the maritime sector. If you remember me, recall that my opening statement, I talked about the colonial masters who developed the inland waterways. When the vessels from abroad came to Lagos, straight they deployed them through the River Niger and River Benue to sustain the northern economy. And reverse is the case, the produce from the northern economy come to the south for export through the inland waterways network. Lokoja was a very busy ship center. Warri was a big inland waterways center, and it was going. And to the extent that the Inland Waterways Act is the only act actually that focuses on development of maritime skills, maritime expertise. That is there. So we have derailed from most of these things. Let us go back and put people who understand the business. I understand the challenges of the Benue area. How on earth could we have neglected that? And we put the goods through the roads, heavy containers, heavy trailers on the road. So our investment on the roads, they are depleted rapidly because the roads, the big trailers are not designed, the roads are not designed to sustain these heavy vehicles. No sooner the roads become death trap. We have said this time and time again, even on this program. So we need to go back and make sure that the inland waterways is feasible. Invest in the development of the inland waterways. And it's not just capital investment, human resources investment, so that we can be proud of the inland waterway system. Without wasting too much time, the Europe network of the inland waterways sustains the economy. Similarly to China. So we are talking about Nigeria's potentials, but we are not addressing the issues. We need to move away from abstract and become more pragmatic so that these God-given resources can bless this economy. You were talking about the inland Nigerian shipbuilding. I said it. How much is left in the CVFF? 600, 700 million, it might depend on who we are talking to. If you give this fund to local indigenous ship owners to go and buy foreign vessels, no sooner the vessel will become, the fund will become unsustainable. What we are saying is that we are not asking the government to build ships, but let us use your consultant or the experts. What are the vessels requirements for Nigeria? It doesn't take time to attract shipbuilding companies to come to Nigeria and build the ships. Like I said, indigenous people can partner with these foreign, with the foreign shipowners and build the vessels here in Nigeria. That should be the starting point. Not giving these funds to people who will go out and buy foreign ships. Then and then only we will provide the foundation to build the cabotage business that we would like to see, where ships are built in Nigeria, when ships are owned by Nigerians, not portfolio people who will go and collect the funds today and then the fund is depleted. We cannot run away from that.
Laurie, for your contribution there. Because of time, we just have a parting shot from Captain Bako here. Earlier on, you talked about the environmental impact, the challenges that we have that is hindering, the maritime activities in the country. What, to round up, to cap up what you are saying, how can this be mitigated?
So the environmental impacts, such as pollution, they can be mitigated by strict compliance with the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships regulation.
Okay.
It will also be mitigated through the strict compliance with ballast water management regulations and all other treaties that have to address the issue of environmental management. Very important, Nigeria is a party to IMO, and I believe Nigeria has been complying with a lot of these regulations. But it's not the government responsibility alone. It's a collective responsibility. Somebody today might just wake up and throw a bottle of water at sea. No, it calls for partnership. Even among the United Nations SDG 17 talks about partnership. So it's a partnership, it's a collective responsibility. That is why the theme for this year talks about our ocean, our obligation, and our opportunities. So it's our own obligation to protect this marine environment. If truly we want to tap into the blue economy, we must be able to protect this environment. Very, very important. Both the private sector, the public sector, we must invest strategically and aggressively. Research and development is key. A lot of young school leavers, people from Maritime Academy of Nigeria or any other schools that offer training on blue economy, they produce extremely brilliant research ideas in their theses or projects. But most of these theses or projects have not been translated for commercial implementation. In most cases, they just stop at innovation level. There's no translation. Okay. So the government and private individuals, they must be able to look into most of these projects and be able to translate them into commercial implementation to address the issue of environmental impact we have. Very important key, sustainability is a key. When we start something, we should be able to sustain it for a long period of time.
Okay. Sustainability is a key.
And we need all hands have to be on deck to be able to harness the potentials in the maritime sector. Captain Caleb Nladibako, seasoned master mariner and founder, Funham Marine and Offshore Services Limited. Thank you so much for your enlightening conversation on this.
Thank you very much for having me.
And Engineer Emmanuel Ilori, former senior marine surveyor, Layouts Register London, joined us from our Lagos studio. Thank you so much for your contributions to the conversation on Good Morning Nigeria today. And Dr. Bolaji, we've already signed him Akinola essay to the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy on Media and Communication. He joined us via Zoom, but he is at his event by now, I believe. And Dr. Shehu Usman Gidado, Director, Maritime Transport, Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology, NIT, Zaria, he joined us via Zoom from Lagos. Thank you, gentlemen, for your contribution to this conversation, and thank our viewers who were able to send in their questions and observation to contribute to the conversation on Good Morning Nigeria today. I am Juma Yusuf. It's been a wonderful, beautiful day. Thank you so much.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. Thanks for joining us, and do have a pleasant day.